To God be the glory.
Welcome back to our class number 7. In our last class, we were working a little bit on our pronunciation in lesson number 5 in the textbook, Menahem Mansour's Biblical Hebrew Step by Step. And where we are right now is on page 39, looking at number 20, distinguishing and trying in our translating to understand the difference between certain letters that, although are different letters, are still virtually pronounced the same. All right, so let's begin then by looking at number 20 and pronouncing these words together. Now remember from our last class, the recommended way to do this was that I'll pronounce it and you look and listen to its pronunciation as we go through all of these, and then rewind the tape and then pronounce it after me. All right, beginning with number 20, Teth and Tav. Talmid, Emet, Latet, Katav, Torah. Next line. Ta va'at, Me'at, Mimah, Katan, Tova. All right. Number 21, the pronunciation with the kaf, with the dagesh, and the kof. All right. Kad, Kavod, Makah, Chaka, Kar. Next line. Kal, Kadosh, Bekerev, Chukah, Rock. Number 22, between the Samic and the Sin. Sal, Nes, Nasa, Susim, Sofer. Next line. Sar, Sam, Nasa, Sason, Yisrael. All right. Once again, that helps us a little bit in our reading. And you can see that you see different letters, and that makes it a little bit confusing, but you'll understand that when the pronunciation is the same, that virtually helps you with that fewer letters that you have to worry about finding a different way that these letters are pronounced. And so virtually it takes the 22 consonant alphabet down to about 19 or 18 letters with sounds that are very similar. All right, let's proceed in our textbook on page 39 to letter G, the general drill in reading. Number 23. Reah, Beni, Egoz, Aniyah, Emet, Perachim. Next word was Ani. All right, next line. Chalom, Shelomo, Evodah, Chaverim, Ya'aseh, Kamishah, Adonai. Next line. Number 24. Yitzchak. Sifrenu. Yikra. Malkenu. Next line. Yarden. Yalda. Mar'eh. Binyamin. Next line. Malkekim. Tiktevu. Yitzchak. Mamlaketi. Darkeka. Number 25. Yodea. Tafuach. Sameach. Ruach. Luach. Mitzveach. Beach, excuse me. Next line. Get that dogish in there. Siach. Masiach. Gavoach. Yadua. Maluach. Rea. All right, number 26. Malchekem, Malchemet, Machashevet, Memshelet, Mishpachat, Mileket. Next line. Mafecha, Mishchelet, Mishmeret, Mishmeret, Mishmaat, Mishmaat. All right, and then on section H, we have rapid reading. It says, read the following over and over again until you can read it correctly and fluently. This is the first line and is the first verse of the Hebrew Bible, Genesis 1:1. All right, let's read this together. Berashit bara Elohim et ha-shemayim va et haaretz. Next line. Va yihi erev va yihi boker yom rishon. Yom rishon. All right, so we can be practicing on that. And now we will proceed on to lesson number 6. And we begin now learning some of the vocabulary, getting familiar with a number of Hebrew words. And it's very, very important that as you work on this vocabulary, you are able to develop this working vocabulary so that you do know what these various words mean. And so when you recognize them, you don't have to keep going back, looking them up to see what they mean. All right, on page 40, the vocabulary, let's now look at our first vocabulary list. Now, what we're going to be doing is reading the word on the right side and then going across the page and seeing its counterpart in the feminine. Alright, so the first one is dode. You can see that that means uncle, our beloved one, and its counterpart in the feminine is doda. Doda, and that means aunt. Next one down, the word for prophet, navi. Navi. And its counterpart for prophetess would be pronounced neviah. Neviah. And that, of course, means prophetess. Alright, the next one down is sus. Sus. This means horse. And the feminine, susa. Susa means mare. Next is the word for man, ish. Ish, meaning man. The woman's name is based upon that. Isha. Isha, meaning woman. Next is the word for father, which is the word Av. You might recognize that Abraham or Avraham comes from this word, meaning father. And then the word for mother is similar. Em. Em is the word for mother. Alright, and then the word for son, ben. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Ben, and then the word that means son. And then the word for daughter is bat. Bat, meaning daughter. Alright, now we'll continue on that same page, only now we'll just move directly down from there. The word next is yom. Yom, and that word means day. And then the word for morning, you can see that right there, is boker. Boker. That's the word that occurs often in Genesis 1. And then below that is the word erev, meaning evening. And then the word for night is, got two for that, Lila and Layil. And then the word below that is Sefer. Sefer, and that word means book. The word for song is the word shir. Shir. And then the word for field, which is below that, is sadeh. Sadeh, word for field. And then the word for voice is kol. Kol is our word for voice. Now, the Hebrew language has only two genders, and those of you that have studied other languages will find that a refreshing change. And as we go to the other side here and look some more Hebrew words, let's begin with the law or the Torah. The pronunciation of that is Torah. Torah. And right below that, menorah is the candlestick or the lampstand. Menorah. Animal is behemah. You might have heard or remember from studying the scriptures, behemoth. Well, that's the word in Hebrew for animal, behemah. The word for Rachel, or ewe lamb, is Rachel. Rachel. The word for door is the word dalet. Dalet. I remember this word by thinking of daylight. The door, when you open the door, you see daylight. Dalet. And then below that is the conjunction and, that's ve. Be pronounced ve. very quickly, since it has a shavah underneath it, it would be ve. And then the word, the definite article the, is ha, the heth with the patak underneath it. And then the last word in this particular vocabulary list is the word for house, which is pronounced ba'it. Ba'it. And that's the word meaning house. All right, we look at this and we have a number of notes that we need to make sure that we have a good grasp on. And as I was mentioning earlier, the Hebrew language has only the two genders. It's got the masculine and it's got the feminine. There is no neuter in Hebrew, and that's not the same in other languages. Obviously, words indicating male and are masculine. Words like father, av, uncle, dode, horse, sus. Whereas words indicating female are obviously feminine, such as mother, em, Rachel, Rachel, or the word for mare, Suah. All of those are obviously going to be female. Now, there is no special form to identify the masculine. Everything in Hebrew is built upon the masculine. You begin there, and then you start building out feminine, masculine plural, feminine plural, and so on. That's the way that we do it in Hebrew. The feminine nouns are very easily recognized because it's going to have one of two things. It's going to end with the hey, a comet's hey, and I'll demonstrate that on the board in just a minute. Or it's going to have an ending tav in front of it. And you can see on lesson 6 on the top of page 41 what we're talking about right there. For example, the word law, Torah, ends in this comet's hey ending. The word for candlestick, menorah, also ends in this comet's hey. And then sus or susah is mer. All right, let's go to the board and we'll demonstrate a little bit of what we're talking about. All right, take the word Torah like that. This is what's making this feminine. The comets, and then the Greek word letter hey. The comets, hey. That is a sign of the feminine. And oftentimes when you're reading something in the Bible, such as women's names, Sarah, and so on, Rebecca, that AH ending tells you that it is a feminine word. All right, but let's take a word that can be both masculine and feminine, such as the word for horse, sus. Now, if we want to make this feminine, then we add the comets and the hey. That makes that word feminine, whereas previously it was masculine. All right, so this is how we recognize as something being feminine. Now, we have some other examples, such as the word for door, delet. This ends in the tav, right here. All right, and so because of that, we know that this is a word that is in the feminine, delet. So if it ends in this, or if it ends in the comet's hey, then we understand that it is going to be feminine. Now, the absence of one of these two things, the comet's hey or the tav at the end, is going to indicate most of the time that it's a masculine word. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're usually building upon masculine. So that will be an easy and simple rule for you to remember. And then the book also gives you some examples of how this is used and some varieties of that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the conjunction and. This was a part of our vocabulary list, and the conjunction and is a vav with a composite shavah beneath it. All right? This cannot stand alone. It has to be attached to the beginning of a word. All right, let's take, for example, the word man. And a man would be the way that would be translated. You would never see, because it cannot happen, vav out there all by itself and then the word for man. It's got to be prefixed to the word. All right, so we put it right here, attached to the word, and that's where it belongs. And a man. All right, or if I was going to say, as the book says, a day and a night, all right, I'd have yom, a day, and a night, Lila, like that. So you can see that the vav here is attached right on to the word, day and night, and that's the way that would be translated. Now, the book also points out that if the first letter has a dagesh, the dot is omitted when you add the vav. All right, so we take the word, for example, priest, Cohen. Ever know any people whose last name were Cohen? Well, if you did, that somewhere in their heritage they had some priests in their lineage, Cohen. All right, now you have a word like this, and you want to put and a priest, so we add our vav there. Well, that's just going to take that away, is what that's going to do, and that's all that that's saying, is that when you add the vav, the conjunction and to it, it takes away the dagesh out of there. All right, next, let's talk about the definite article. The definite article, like the conjunction of the vav, is expressed with three different things. Hey, with a patak underneath it, followed by a dagesh, which goes in whatever letter you're attaching that to. All right? So if we're going to say the night, we already learned that that was Lila. Now we've got the night. It's hey with a patak followed by a dagesh. And so we put that little dagesh right in there. All right, let's take another example. The word for voice is kol. Let's say we wanted to say the voice. How do we do that? Three things. Three things we add to this. We add the definite article, hey, with the patak, and the dagesh. Hakol, the voice, is the way that would read. All right, so that helps us then understand that the definite article is really three things. One, it's the letter hey. Second, it has the patak. And then followed by dagesh. Three things. Here we go. The hey, the patak, the dagesh. Those are all the things that are the sign of the definite article. If the word begins with the dagesh, no extra dot is necessary. For example, the word for daughter, bat, if you're wanting to say the daughter, then you don't have to worry about the dagesh because the first letter had it already. All right, now, the vocabulary that we just went through, that we introduced at the beginning of this lesson, is composed of basic words that you're going to see often when you're studying the Hebrew Scriptures. Read the words in groups of 5. First from Hebrew into English, and then learn them from English into Hebrew. Test yourself by writing the words first in English and then translating them into Hebrew. be sure that you insert the vowels when you're doing this. Observe accent signs when they're given, and if there is no sign, then where does the accent go? It goes on the last syllable, so remember that. And then check your work by comparing it with the vocabulary. Also note that in Hebrew there is no neuter. There are only two genders, masculine and feminine. And then also remember the rule about the feminine is very important. To identify something as feminine, it's going to have the vowel comets followed by the consonant hey. Or it may also have the tav, but most often it's going to be the comets hey. All right, and then of course we've talked about the conjunction and, which is ve, the vav with the shava underneath it. That cannot stand alone. That has to be attached to the beginning of the word. And then also, the definite article hey is also that which has to be attached to the word. It has a patak underneath it, followed by the dagesh. All right, now let's go to the exercises and work on that a little bit together. Not going to be going through all of these. I will work on the odds with you, and you will have the evens to do on your own without any help. But I believe that you can, at this point, easily handle that. All right, so it says, read the following words, give their meaning, and identify their gender. All right, so when you complete the assignments, remember, you need to do all of them, including the ones that we do together. All right, number one is safer. Safer. All right, that word means book. And that's, of course, masculine. It doesn't have the comets hey on the end of it. Number three, kol. That also is masculine, and it means voice. Number five, yom. That's day, and that also is masculine. All right, going across to number six, lila. Lila. Now, this, as you recall by looking in your vocabulary, is masculine, even though it has the comets hey ending. Now, the reason for that is because the accent has taken the emphasis off of the comets hey, and therefore distinguishes that from being feminine. So remember that the word night, lila, even though it ends in the comets hey, is not feminine, but masculine. All right, so gave you a little help there on number six, but let's go back to the odds. Number seven, Erev. Erev is the word for evening, and that's masculine. Number nine, Bait, masculine, and that's the word for house. You say, well, shouldn't that be feminine since that ends in a tav? Well, normally it would, but the accent is on not the last syllable, but on the first one. Therefore, that took away the feminine part. All right, now let's go down to the next one. It says, according to the exercises, we are to translate the following into English. All right, together we'll look at this. I'll once again do the odds. You're responsible for doing the evens. All right, this would be pronounced yom, which means day, veyom, and a day, hayom, which means the day. Now, once again, I want to point out some things to you as we look at this. You see here that it has the yod with the dagesh in it right there. Now that tells you that you've got all three signs of the definite article. You've got the hey with the patak followed by the dot and the yod, which is the dagesh. All right, number three is ish, which means man, and ve'ish, and a man. Number five is haben, which means the son, and then ve habat, which means the daughter. So that whole thing can translate into one phrase, the son and the daughter. All right, let's go over to number seven. And we'll read all of the words and then translate that. This would be havehema, ve hasusa. So this would be the animal and the mare. Number 9, hanavi ve hakol. All right, this would translate the prophet and the voice. Now you say, well, what is that little thing there on the noon? Right there. I'm not used to seeing that with the noon. All right, once again, that right there is the dagesh. The sign of the definite article is 3 things. You've got the hay followed by the pot with the patak underneath, followed by the dagesh, and so you have a noon there with the dagesh inside it. All right, number 11 is haben ve hasefer. So this would be translated the sun and the book. All right, then going down to C, and we'll be going back and forth here between the chart, which you'll be able to see on the screen, and the chalkboard, in which I'm going to write the answers to some of these things for you. And once again, we'll just do a few of these that will help you in your work. All right. The first one that it asks us to do is translate the following into Hebrew: the voice and a voice. All right. We'll of course go from right to left. The word for voice is kol. The voice is going to take the hay, the patak, followed by that dagesh. All right, so there is the voice. And then it also wants us to do and a voice. So that'd be vekol. Vekol. All right, let's go down to number 3. Wants us to do and the field and a field. We have ve and the field. Okay, make sure we get everything right. Got the hay followed by the dagesh. And then we've got sa de and the field. And then they want us to do and field and a field. So let's take our same word here. And that's what we would have for that. Excuse me, I'm putting the dot on the wrong letter there. So that'd be vesade. Vesade. All right, let's go to number 5. And here they want us to translate night and day. Okay, Lila. That's our word there. Lila. Ve. Yom. Night and day. All right. Let's go and do number 7. All right, on number 7, they want us to do the house and the house. So we would have habayit, that'd have the patak, followed by the definite article with the dagesh, ba'it, habayit. And then and a house would be ve, and, or in the house, I guess they want us to do, and the ba'it. Like that. All right, so that helps you out a little bit on that. And then let's drop down and do number 9. You should be doing the evens on your own. And they want us to do and the law and a law. So, and the law, Torah, Torah, okay. Then let's do and la. Torah. Like that. Now, why doesn't that have a dagesh in it? Remember the rule that said that when you have the vav, the conjunction vav, it takes out that dagesh. If the letter normally would have had it, which it would have had because we see that it had it over here, and even without the, Torah would have it. It's one of the Begad Kafat letters. Over here we see that it does not have that, and that's the reason because we attach the end onto that. All right, and then going down to letter D, it wants us to give the feminine of the following. All right, and we'll take the couple of the odds. We have sus. We want to make that feminine. We add the comet's hey to that, and that makes that feminine. All right, we want to give the feminine next for the word son, which is normally ben, but in Hebrew, bat. That's would be the feminine. Whoops, I said number 2, but that's number 3, isn't it? Okay. All right, and then one more. We want the word for woman. Isha. Notice the feminine ending, the comet's hey. This is a doubling dot, and so this word would be pronounced Isha, like that. You get the SH in there twice because you have that doubling dot, and that's the feminine for that. All right, that gives you some examples and also some answers on some of these exercises, which you, of course, are going to want to work on your own. Now, one last thing before we conclude this lesson, and that is taking a look at the rapid reading, which is on the bottom of that particular page, which is from the text in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 9. All right, once again, work on your reading, work on your pronunciation, so that you will be able to look at these things and pronounce them, and I'll go through that slow enough where you can practice working on it. All right, here we go. Genesis chapter 6 and verse 9. Ele toledot Noach. Noach haya ish Sadiq, Tamim, Haya, Bedorotav. There you go. That's Genesis chapter 6 and verse 9. All right, this concludes this. Once again, this is our first introduction to some vocabulary words. Make sure that you work hard on those vocabulary words. Do not proceed until you know the vocabulary words and you're comfortable with seeing them and recognizing them instantly. And also work on that feminine ending, understanding the comet's hey ending, and also the definite article hey, and then also the conjunction vav that is attached to the words. And that concludes this lesson.